actually,
I've started videotaping you, by the way. This is Patrick. Patrick is your home inspector.
Hello,
That's
hello.
your wife.
And
Okay.
so overall, for a house this age, this is in pretty good shape. They've taken really good care of it. They've done a lot of good work here. I'm not seeing any major issues. The biggest thing I would have looked at is the roof. The roof looks like it's nearing the end of its life. There's been some patchwork on this side. There was a couple areas I just couldn't get up to. It was just way too tall. But on this roof, I can see cracking in the shingles, which sometimes is a manufacturer defect, but sometimes it just is from age, you know. And this side, I mean, you get a lot more sun on this side than anywhere else. So that can result in cracking the shingles. And then also it's either hail damage or what's called rash blisters. You'll see in my pictures, some of them have like dimples in them. And so that also you want to have looked at by a roofer. If it is hail damage, the good news is if they've got homeowners insurance, that'll cover that. And so that they may not pay for the whole roof with an insurance company plan, but at least they can give them a credit, and maybe that will cut down on a lot of the costs. Eventually you're going to need to replace this roof, but you know, I would get a roofer to at least give you a time frame, like how much do you have left on this roof. I'm not seeing any leaks anywhere, but you know, if it's over 25 years, they can start leaking tomorrow or in 5 years. You just never know. And they don't just start leaking everywhere at once. You know, you get one in one spot and then another. So that would be the biggest thing. The gutters definitely need to be looked at. There's a lot. These are old gutters. I don't know if they're original because I don't think they had gutters back then in the teens. But they're these really wide metal gutters, and there's a lot of patching done on some of the seams. So on a day like this, it's hard to tell if it's leaking. So that is another thing most roofers can give you some quotes on, or at least look at, give you some options if you do need to replace any of the gutters. Foundation's pretty good. There's one spot, so underneath this porch, there's a door over there. You can crawl all the way, or walk all the way underneath this porch, and then it goes underneath this sunroom, and the back wall of that sunroom, these are all rock and block walls. The original foundation was rock, and then these block walls here were added. Those are just kind of secondary supports, because this is called like a pier and curtain, where you have these giant rock piers, and then the curtain wall is more just to protect stuff coming in, like rodents, but it does add some support. But in that back wall, some of the rocks are loose or have fallen a little bit, and so it's no longer supporting properly. So, you know, we have to get a structural engineer to look at it. Most general contractors could probably look at that, but that's the way we have to put it in our report. So there's just one spot there, and then right above it, there's some old termite damage on the sill plate as part of your floor system. So, you know, it's weak, and so that area can sink over time. And, you know, it's still, I mean, the floor system looks great overall. It's just certain areas, you know, they've had some termite damage. There were some other spots in the basement when we go down near the water heaters where they did some repairs. They've added some floor joists, and so that looks good. So let's see, and then just kind of like maintenance stuff, you'll see like some of the rock walls here. You've got some cracking on the mortar right here. You know, these walls have been here for over 100 years, so they're fine. It's just adding some more mortar cement to just seal up around these areas. You know, same thing right here where this block wall meets here, just sealing these up. You know, that'll prevent any rodents or bugs getting in there. Or water. Water's a big thing here in North Carolina.
Water's a big thing.
Your gas meters in there by the bushes. I always just note where your gas meters are. And then right here you can see where these stairs lead down to the basement. You've got a drain right here. Well, on the other side, oh, she locked that one. Well, on the other side of this wall, there is some moisture readings on the wall on either side of here. So I would guess during a heavy rain, water does get in there, especially if this drain is clogged. So we don't run cameras and stuff like that. So, you know, the one option you could do is put an overhang here.
Yeah.
And so that way it prevents more water from getting in. You know, it's probably been going on for decades, but I always note water intrusion signs because that can eventually add deterioration to your walls. So you've got the HVAC guy looking at your system. I agree with him. It's older. It's about 25 years old. So, you know, you're on kind of borrowed time. It could go, you know, the good thing is this is a thermopride, and they're like built like tanks. And so they last a lot longer. So we'll be curious to see what he writes in his report, whether he recommends replacement within the next few years. I think as long as everything's running fine, which on my report, I wrote everything was running fine.
And he said everything's,
yeah,
he says it's running fine. He said the biggest thing is just to monitor carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
Because if it starts to go bad
Yep.
and it releases carbon monoxide, you'll have to replace.
Yep.
So, and that just happens as it ages.
Yeah. There is a crawl space under this area of the house. This was the only spot I couldn't get to. In the basement, behind the water heaters, there's an opening, but there's no way you can get in because they've added some like kind of framing around it. So it's just, you know, that's not uncommon on older houses where there's just certain areas you just can't get to. So I'm just gonna write that in my report that there were some spots that were inaccessible. You know, the floor system feels pretty good when I walked around here. It's just I can't see all that area underneath. You'll notice here you've got kind of a negative slope. There is a drain there, so I would just monitor this area during heavy rain and see how well that drains there, because it looks like they added some concrete to kind of slope this. So, but I look at the bigger picture, the brick, and so that's why you want to monitor this. You know, you'll see in the summer. I mean, I don't know how long you've lived here, but we get a lot of rain.
Oh
so.
yeah, we've been here forever.
Okay. While we're still outside, I'll just go over the guest house. The metal roof looks okay. I mean, it's an older one. When I went up in the attic, there was a lot of water stains, but all of them were dry. But you'll notice right where the gutter and the metal roof edge meet, that's your fascia board. There's no metal drip edge. And so some of the fascia, especially where the gutters are loose or dented, is deteriorated. It's rotted out. So the water sometimes can curl underneath, or if the gutters are clogged, and that can deteriorate your fascia board. So what you have to do is you have to pull that gutter off to replace the fascia. So, and then the gutters, you know, some of them are loose and damaged. There's only one downspout for this whole gutter system. It's kind of odd that they only had one. It just kind of wraps all the way around, but there's no downspout on the other side. So I would put at least one more in the opposite corner. You know, you might need one at each corner, but at least one more. Because that means when it rains hard, there's not enough drainage. You're gonna get a lot of spillover. And so that can splash on all kinds of stuff, your siding, and foundation, your roof, or your cedar shakes, stuff like that. But the good news is I didn't see any active leaks in the attic, so. I think that was pretty much it on the outside of this one.